After several days of intensive testing, experimenting and brainstorming, I am finally confident that I have found the ultimate Spear Dagger build for PvE and PvP. In this video I will show you 4 different skill build presets for bosses, AOE farming in both large and small scale PvP. On top of that, you will get the 4 best possible and realistic gear builds that I will use, as well as traits, runes, masteries, stats and everything else important. At the end, I will show you the rotation on target dummies and that same rotation applied on the bosses. All the timestamps are in the description, as well as my quest log link where you can find everything I will show you in the video. Both Dagger and Spear have 2 different weaken effects that you can stack, which also change the way some skills behave. Dagger has Poison and Thunderclouds, while Spear has Ignite and Burst weaken. Understanding how each works and how to apply them properly will have a significant impact on min-maxing the damage. That's why I extensively tested all the possible weaken combinations and came to the conclusion that a combination of Poison and half Ignite half Burst build deals the absolute most damage. And as always, I can back up that claim, as I currently hold rank 1 in Gate of Infinity with a Spear Dagger with a significant time difference. This is the skill build that I use for PvE dungeons and Gate of Infinity. On the Dagger side, we are using Inject Venom with cooldown reduction and duration increase. This will pretty much guarantee 100% poison uptime as long as you don't get interrupted by mechanics, but even if you do, it's easy to reapply it fast. Cleaving Moonlight with consecutive use and poison damage increase, which has low cooldown and can be spammed as a filler skill to keep the poison stacks. Brutal Incision with poison damage increase as a burst low cooldown skill. Umbral Spirit with poison damage increase and duration increase, which is pretty much the bread and butter of Spear Dagger, as with high attack speed and multiple hit skills on Spear, this procs insanely fast and in large quantities. Finishing off with Fatal Stigma damage increase, which is another high burst skill that will always do max damage on 20 poison stacks. On the Spear side, we are taking a Culling Arc with Critical Burst, which is the main skill for applying 5 burst stacks. This skill will proc at least 4 burst stacks 95% of the time, and all 5 of them about 80% of the time you used it. That's why we are pairing it up with Gale Rush, which applies 1 burst stack to fill up the remaining 5th. On top of that, using Initiative Blitz, which gives all 3 stacks of attack speed with 1 Gale Rush dash on a boss, and increased duration so the max attack speed buff lasts 7.5 seconds. Javelin Surge is used as a buff, which deals quite a decent damage, but applies Brand Effect, which increases your skill damage boost for 5 seconds. It has low cooldown, so the uptime is pretty decent. Brutal Fury specialization is the bread and butter when it comes to the damage. On applied 5 burst stacks, it can be reused 2 more times. With increased damage skill specialization on 5 burst stacks, it absolutely shreds. Unyielding Sentinel is there just for a heavy attack chance increase for 3 seconds. If you time this skill correctly, you will see many ×2 numbers on your screen. Slaughtering Slash with explosive damage is used to explode burst stacks, while Phoenix Barrage is used with the Ignite Spec and Critical Aftermath to apply Ignite stacks and proc Umbral Spirit. Passive skills used are Destructive Fang, Murderous Energy, Wrathful Edge, Assassin's Instinct, Imposing Form, Fatal Precision, Mortal Wrath, and Retaliatory Strike. This setup allows for maximizing poison damage and duration, while allowing for high critical hit chance and critical damage, also maximizing the attack speed and RNG skill damage boost increase, which procs quite often considering Spear skills are all multi-hit. The defense skill uses Block Blade, which gives a very much needed mana regen every time you hit a perfect fury block. With mastery levels increased to 20, the build allows for some extra needed stats. On Dagger Mastery, grab 9 points in Assassination for damage, 9 points in Poison for mana regen, mana cost efficiency and cooldown reduction, and 1 point in Disguise. While on the Spear Mastery, grab 9 points in Face Off, 9 points in Destroy, and 1 point in Charge for damage, mana, attack speed, amongst other stats. The best part about PVE rotation is that only the initial first rotation matters. The rest of the fight you simply use what comes off the cooldown, but it is still important that you combo important skills together. Here is the first initial rotation. Javelin Surge from range to apply Brand Effect. Unyielding Sentinel to apply heavy attack chance after 3 seconds. Gale Rush to dash into melee range and apply attack speed buff. Activate Poison and instantly spin to apply stacks, Fatal Stigma, then activate Umbral Spirit, Cleaving Moonlight to activate Licurious Dagger buff, then Phoenix Barrage to deal damage, apply Ignite and Poison stacks, and proc Umbral Spirit. Calling Arc to apply burst stacks. Keep in mind that with the Gale Rush you will have 1 stack already applied, and this will apply the remaining 4, putting it at 5 burst stacks. Then use Brutal Fury 3 times, into Brutal Incision, Cleaving Moonlight again to apply Licurious Dagger buff, and finish off with the Slaughtering Slash to explode the burst stacks. After this initial first rotation, your main goal is to always apply Javelin Surge brand effect before using main damage combo. Always using Calling Arc plus Gale Rush to 100% guarantee 5 burst stacks. Fatal Stigma, Umbral Spirit and Phoenix Barrage have almost identical cooldowns, so always use those 3 in the same order. And then following up with Brutal Fury on 5 burst stacks. Always apply Licurious buff with Cleaving Moonlight whenever it's off the cooldown, and burst with Brutal Incision and Slaughtering Dash at the end to explode the stacks. The best part about this build is that if you have a longbow player that applies Deadly Marker, your skills will come off the cooldown faster than you can actually use them. So in a lot of scenarios it is better to just wait 1 or 2 seconds for other skills to come off the cooldown so you can sync the combo skills together. Spear has a lot of capabilities to apply buffs, but you shouldn't always have to worry to properly apply them, because it's impossible to keep track of what is going to activate and when. For any mana concerns, they do happen only when you are solo on training dummies. In a real 6-man boss fight, there is enough mana regen from potions, food, longbow players, healers and your defense block skill. I honestly never drop below 50% mana while literally spamming everything that comes off the cooldown. While on the topic of PvE, Spear Dagger has the most insanely broken AOE build. It literally has the fastest AOE clear in the game, where you can honestly solo farm open world dungeons while pulling 10 to 15 mobs at the same time. I'm not going to spend too much going into details explaining each skill, so here are all the active and passive skills I use. Here is the Dagger specialization, and here is the Spear specialization. The masteries are the same as for the normal PvE build shown before in the video. The general idea is that you only need to use 4 skills and everything simply gets wiped away. The rest of the skills are just there for good measure, but I rarely even use them. You will want to pull as many mobs as you can and try to group the melee mobs around the ranged mobs. When they are tightly packed, activate Unyielding Sentinel, which will give you a 4k HP shield, and after 3 seconds apply heavy attack buff. Then activate Thunderclouds, Thunder Spirit, use Abyssal Cleave to stun them, and then use Phoenix Barrage for initial first massive AoE. Then pop Bloodleech Aura for heal into Explosive Fury to get 5 Ember stacks, and then simply blast away with Javelin Inferno. The best part is that killing a mob with Javelin Inferno gives you Ember stacks, which means you can spam it until the whole pack is dead. If there are any ranged stragglers left, use Frenzied Sword Dance, Flaming Arc and Rising Slash to burst them down. It's absolutely crazy how much damage you can deal in a short amount of time with this AoE build alone. Large scale and small scale PvP builds are quite different. For large scale, these are all the skills I use. Here is the Dagger skill specialization, and here is the Spear skill specialization. Dagger masteries put 9 points into Assassination, 6 points into Disguise for evasion, and 4 points into Poison. For Spear masteries, 9 points into Face Off, 9 points into Destroy, and 1 point into Charge for attack speed and skill damage boost. In every PvP content, you should always have your daggers in the main hand for extra evasion. The general idea in the large scale is that you have 2 main combos. One combo is for isolating ranged DPS targets and bursting them down, and the other combo relies on Javelin Inferno AoE damage from range onto multiple enemies. Shadow Escape is still the best engager tool. The build runs Thunderclouds as the Thunder Spirit has increased damage and spreads to 2 additional enemies if they have Thunderclouds weaken, while using Camouflage Cloak for utility, survivability and engaging, and then pairing it up with Phantom Smokescreen for extra survivability. On the Spear side, Javelin Inferno with Hamstring AoE slow will decimate the large groups of enemies. Abyssal Cleave is the stun that allows to set up a burst damage, Explosive Fury is used to generate and stack Ember for Javelin Inferno, while Unyielding Sentinel is used for 4k HP shield and CC resistance, while Rising Slash being an additional gap closer with exploding Ignite stacks. Phoenix Barrage is used to apply Ignite stack and spread Thunder Spirit on enemies, while Death from Above is used for a stealthy engagement on large groups of enemies. So the way you play is simple. Move around the battlefield until you spot an isolated target. Activate Thundercloud and Thunder Spirit before you Shadow Escape. Then instantly Abyssal Cleave stun into Phoenix Barrage, which will apply Ignite stacks and proc Thunder Spirit. Then use Explosive Fury for additional burst and generate Ember. At this point the enemy will likely start running away, so spam Javelin Inferno for range damage and to apply slow, finishing off with Rising Slash 18 meter range gap closer to deal damage and explode Ignite stacks. That is the single target combo, and you should always try to engage with a stun and Thunder Spirit ready. But if you don't want to wait for them, Shadow Escaping and just using Exploding Fury plus Javelin Inferno plus Rising Flash will be enough filler damage. For the second combo, there is one way you can engage into large groups of enemies where after using your burst, you will likely be deleted. If possible, before engaging, you will want to pre-stack Ember on a mob or a random enemy, as Ember stacks stay for 30 seconds. First you will want to go into stealth, then Death from Above from stealth onto a target in the center of a big group. Quickly activate Unyielding Sentinel, Thunderclouds, Thunder Spirit and Phantom Smokescreen, and then just go crazy with the Javelin Inferno. After landing, several targets will be feared and you should have enough time to pop all defensive skills before unleashing Javelin Inferno. If executed right, it should look something like this. Keep in mind that you can always use your Spear defensive skill in the middle of an enemy blob to reflect damage and create a 2-second 100% range and magic evasion shield upon blocking perfectly. This build will likely change over time as I find better ways to play, so keep an eye on the quest log for all the potential changes. For small scale, these are all the skills I use. Here is the Dagger skill specialization, and here is the Spear skill specialization. Dagger Masteries put 9 points into Assassination, 6 points into Disguise for Evasion and 4 points into Poison. For Spear Masteries, 9 points into Face Off, 9 points into Destroy and 1 point into Charge for attack speed and skill damage boost. In every PvP content, you always have your daggers in the main hand for extra evasion. The general idea is that small scale and arena build is an upgraded and extended variation of the single target combo from the large scale build. The big difference is that we are focusing on Poison Weaken effect. The idea is the same as I already explained it. You will want to Shadow Escape onto a ranged DPS targets with Poison and Umbral Spirit active, using Stun into Phoenix Barrage to apply Poison and Ignite stacks, while proccing Umbral Spirit, into Explosive Fury to generate Ember, then from range Javelin Inferno into Rising Slash Gap Closer and Ignite Explosion Burst, while you have Brutal Incision for some filler damage if you can use them during stun effect. For defensiveness you have 4k HP shield and CC resistance from Unyielding Sentinel and stealth with immunity for engaging or disengaging. Also remember to craft and use a Purification Blessing Stone to remove CC and gain 1 second immunity. It's the yellow one. The one notable difference is the usage of Cataclysm with Stunning Resolve. The reason for using this skill is against high skilled players who have quick reaction times and will always likely press their defensive block as soon as someone dashes on them, likely blocking your stun. With Cataclysm you can use it after Shadow Escaping on the target to potentially pierce the block defense and stun them for 2 seconds, then after that applying another stun for extra duration and burst damage. The gear also plays an important part in building Spear Dagger, so I have prepared 4 different gear builds that will suit every type of player, their playstyle and the content they prefer. Personally, I'm using the build that focuses on maximizing attack speed while balancing melee hit chance with range and magic evasion. It gives 42.9% added attack speed with over 1.3k hit chance and over 1.4k range and magic evasion, while holding almost 17k HP and close to 1000 melee critical hit chance. It is mostly focused on PvP while being equally good in PvE, where I only changed the stats by dropping to 50 Perception and adding it into 30 Wisdom for mana and mana regen. Traits are pretty standard with focus on range and magic evasion, while adding max health, mana regen, attack speed and movement speed as third. The rune synergy focuses on dexterity, attack speed, strength and max health, while actual runes are a mixture of range and magic evasion with melee hit, critical hit chance and max health, skill damage resistance and recovery crystal heal increase. It uses 2 set Shadow Harvester for critical hit damage and 2 set Phantom Wolf for bonus damage, but more importantly range and magic evasion on gloves and chest. It is the build that I have already built myself in game and it cost me around 3000 Lucent to swap. For small scale and arena grinders I have prepared a melee evasion build that will give you enough survivability and protection against other melee classes rampaging in the arenas. I'm not going to go too much into details explaining everything since it's a pretty niche build, as you can also click on the link and see the build for yourself, all the runes, stats and traits it uses. The next gear build is for PvE enjoyers who never do any PvP. It uses completely different gear, items, runes, stats and traits, but the main focus is high dexterity, attack speed, mana regen and cooldown speed. And the final build is something that I saw Whelps Theory craft and claim that is the best tier 1 Spear Dagger gear build. It focuses on 70 dexterity, high range and magic evasion. Personally, I do not like the fact of stacking that much evasion while having a very small amount of melee hit chance. With runes, a lot of ranged DPS players can stack up much higher numbers of evasion, and on global, a lot of them are actually changing into melee evasion and melee endurance due to the increasing amount of melee players that appeared when Spear released. Having a high amount of evasion isn't going to make difference as you get diminishing returns the more you stack it, but personally, the very low melee hit chance will cost you in fights against melee stacking DPS players. And you can always use your movement skill and dodge roll to gain the additional 600 ranged and magic evasion from the passives on the dagger. But if you want to be pretty much fairly unkillable by ranged DPS classes, feel free to try this build and go with it. But keep in mind that the meta on global is different from the Korea, and having a more balanced melee hit and evasion build will benefit you long term. Remember, everything I show you I personally play myself. I never claim I know what is the best and what works the best, and you should never copy paste a build from anyone. Use it as a template and try to see if you can change some things to make it better for yourself. Always keep an eye on this quest log as I will often update the skill builds and add the new gear builds, as I don't plan on making update videos every time I change one skill or get a new gear item. I try to be as detailed as possible explaining the build and rotation. So hopefully you understood everything, and if not, let me know in the comments and I'll answer all the questions. Thank you for watching, consider subscribing and watch some of my other videos appearing on your screen.